Hi there, my name is Karen Fabian and I'm the founder of Bare Bones Yoga. And about a week ago, I went into my Facebook group called the Bare Bones Yoga Anatomy Work Group. And I have about 1,000 teachers in there from all over the world. And I asked them if they felt like they were taking training after training without getting the tactical skills that they needed around cueing, how to effectively cue, and without really understanding the why behind the cue. And also, if they found themselves lacking clarity and confidence in their teaching. And would they be interested in a free training all around how to build more confidence and clarity and how to stop this endless cycle of investing in training after training and not getting the tactical skills that they needed? And the answer was a resounding yes. So I'm here today to present to you a multi-video training series, all designed to give you an idea of a template or a system that you can use to understand the anatomy behind the cue. Now, I'll tell you right out of the gate, this is not a training series that's going to teach you all the anatomy. What it's going to do instead is it's going to give you a tool to help you identify if you have gaps in your learning, in your knowledge of anatomy, so that you can begin to make more informed decisions around future trainings that you take. Without this tool, it can be really hard to avoid getting kind of sucked up into the trends and into kind of the flow of teaching, where you're just kind of told what to say, where you might pick up things along the way, where you might be saying things you kind of read about in social media or in different articles, even yoga-related articles, without really knowing the why behind it. Now, this isn't necessarily a bad thing, although wouldn't you rather have the knowledge behind the cue rather than just parroting what you hear? And I can absolutely tell you for sure that when you have the knowledge behind the cue, that's where much of the confidence comes from, and all the other things that go along with confidence in terms of your way of being as a teacher. So I took a couple notes, and I know that you're probably not going to be able to see all of what's here. It's less important that you literally see it and more that you just kind of open your mind and be coachable in this moment and just hear some of kind of what I've got to share with you in terms of just the logic behind this approach. So I want to give you a sense of a continuum here, and I want you to imagine that you are here as a teacher and you want to get here. And this by no means means here's for beginning teachers and here's for advanced teachers. It's just to give you a sense that we're always all, as individual teachers, in and should be in this mode of growth. And for many of us, we have this vision of we're at a spot now on this continuum, but we see something in the distance that we strive to be. And it could be multi-layered. It could be in part we see a desire for building new skills. It could be a vision of kind of seeing ourselves teaching in a particular way that we don't feel we're really embodying right now. So whatever it is, it's just this sense that there's this continuum and you're in one spot now and you want to get to another spot, kind of like the infamous point A to point B paradigm. And so one of the things that I noticed as I was mapping this out, some thoughts came to mind in terms of what I see when I go out and I train teachers in various 200-hour teacher trainings. I teach the anatomy portion of that, or just different standalone workshops I do, or in all the plethora of contact I have with people online via my social media channels and the Facebook group. So one of the things I see is that teachers have a sense at times, and sometimes a very good sense, of alignment and action. And with that, which is great, there is still this sense that the anatomy part or anatomy-based cues are harder for them to share. They don't have a good sense, like I was saying before, of the anatomy underneath it. Another thing that I often see, and I'll have conversations like this with teachers, is this kind of use of what I call teacher phrases or yoga speak, this kind of leaning on things that you pick up, and sometimes it can even be in trainings, where there's this kind of very steadfast commitment to, oh, this is what this situation calls for, this is the cue. And it's just kind of a very, nondescript kind of teachery phrase without a real good understanding on the part of the teacher as to, why am I even using this particular cue right now? And then another thing is just that wondering. Sometimes teachers are really coachable and they come right out and say, I don't understand why I'm being told to use this cue right now, or why this cue is being shared right now for this particular pose. What's the anatomy behind it? And then the last thing is what I said earlier. This taking a lot of training is kind of being in this cycle, looking for something, and then taking a training, and while you might be, energized and you might have made great connections, going back into the studio after your training and still feeling like you just don't have an understanding of the anatomy behind it. So the next thing I want to talk about, because this is more the tactical, right? So let's talk now about the feeling-based side. So this is where we start to get into things like, how are you feeling when you teach? And there are several different kind of parameters that I want you to think about. So the first one is confidence. Do you feel confident when you teach? So if you were to rate yourself on a scale of 5, how you feel in your body when you're teaching, what does that feel like? Where do you feel you are on that scale? What about clarity? Do you feel that your cues are clear, highly understandable to people regardless of their experience with yoga? Do you feel that when you are teaching, you have an ability to kind of call forth understandable cues with ease and without kind of striving for the right words? What about purpose? Do you feel that you have a purpose to your teaching? Or maybe do you feel like you went into teacher training, you weren't sure you wanted to teach, you came out of teacher training, now you're teaching, and you're just kind of a little bit like a cork in the ocean. You're not really sure what your bigger purpose is. Or the converse, you have a bigger purpose, but you don't feel like you're any closer to that. The next one is impact. Do you feel you make an impact when you teach? If you were to kind of rate that on a scale of 1 to 5, it's a little hard without feedback from students, but do you feel like you're making an impact? Sometimes a way to know is, are you having interactions with your students after class? Are they asking questions to show that they're really engaged in the class itself? Are they asking questions that show that they've heard what you were sharing and they're starting to apply it to their own bodies, and they're coming to you with some questions as to, well, can you tell me a little bit more about that particular cue and that particular body action or body part or something movement, and how, I'm feeling this in my body. How might that apply to me? So this is one way to get a sense of impact, but just that broader sense of, we have this opportunity when people come to class to make an impact, but then there's all the other hours of the day when they're out doing whatever it is they're doing. Are you teaching in a way that has broader applicability to what they're doing in their life? And then the last thing is connection. One of the great things about having really good cueing when you teach is you'll say the cue and then you'll watch the students and you'll literally see that action occur. And that is such a wonderful experience to kind of have that sense that just your verbal cueing is giving them enough support that they know what to do. And by the same token, through that, really clear and understandable cue, you're giving them a connection to their body that maybe they didn't have before in other yoga classes or in other, exercise scenarios. And this is really maybe the first opportunity that they felt a particular action of a muscle, or they've been able to hear something, really be present and integrate what they're hearing into the movement required in the posture. So all of these things, confidence, clarity, purpose, impact, connection, these are all parameters that we can use to kind of assess our teaching. And it's really important that we're taking time to kind of step back and assess where we are, rather than just kind of mindlessly being in this flow of just consuming information without any real clear sense of what our game plan is. So this is the end of this first video. I'm going to go on to the next one, so stay tuned for that.